All right, this is Fuzz from RIP, and you are tuned to the Doom Tomb podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Doom Tomb podcast. My name is Chris. I am your host, and today we have members from the band Cough. Cough is based out of Richmond, Virginia, and one of the members, Parker, the bassist, he's also in a band called Windhand. Check them both out if you haven't on social media. Heavy Doom really fills in this genre just perfectly. We talk a little bit about some of the old material, some stuff off of Still They Pray. We talk about the recording process a little bit and using some of the people from Windhand to help with that. This was a very interesting interview. This was done super late. We were going to do this right after a sound check. Didn't quite work out that way. You know, the guys were traveling over here, I think from California, over to Mesa, Arizona. They played at Club Red. And, you know, there was detours and what have you, and they kind of got, just wound up late. And so we were going to do the interview after the show. And then we even took it longer, so after their gear was loaded and everything like that. So this was an extremely long day for these guys. I sincerely appreciate their time that they gave me. I imagine that they were just exhausted from the day. And you might even hear that in the interview. So let's get to it. This is the band Cough. The band members from Cough, and we have a special mascot today, Roxanne. What kind of dog is Roxanne? A pit mix? Adorable dog, just a sweetheart. Gentlemen, could you please introduce yourselves?
My name is Parker. I play bass and vocals.
I'm Joey. I play drums.
And I'm David. I play guitar and also vocals.
Now, guys, how long have you been an active band?
13 miserable years. Yeah.
2005.
Yeah.
And what was the inception? How'd y'all get started?
We were all just like friends from college, pretty much, or like from being in a college town.
Right.
And going to the same shows and parties and stuff like that.
Back in that day, what were some of the shows that you were seeing? What were you watching at the time?
There's like the Nancy Reagan days. Actually, when it was 929, I saw Cephalic Carnage, Mastodon played there.
Mastodon played Hole in the Wall.
Yeah. Municipal Waste played there too.
Where was Hole in the Wall?
It was down the street from the, main club we have now. Yeah, it's closed now.
Right. How is that? Where are y'all from? What's the scene like going on there? Are there places to play? Are there good places to play?
There's like one kind of indie punk spot. Like it actually used to have like a really rich house show culture, which is
right.
What we started off doing. But I think sort of campus security has overrun the whole town.
Sure.
And made that a lot harder. So there's still a couple house show spots, but the main venue you want to play is Strange Matter, unless you're selling like 500 tickets and you play at the Broadberry.
Sure.
And then I think like the National has like over 1,000 cap.
And while I'm on the subject, so you go around, you tour U.S. Have you been over in Europe?
3 or 4 times now. Yeah.
So usually, I'll ask you for like, what are some great places to play in the United States? But what are some great places to play in Europe?
Like
venues.
Specific venues?
Yep.
Would be like Truck Stop Alaska.
Underworld in London.
Yeah.
That's one for sure.
And what's the scene like for this genre over there?
I'd say it varies,
Right?
depending on the country you're in. The UK is actually it's the closest thing to America.
Right.
Very little hospitality. But the shows are good, you know, and you can communicate with people.
Right.
But actually, I don't know, they're actually a lot more receptive. Like, you can play a small town in a country that you've never thought of before, and there's still a crowd there.
And yeah, it still draws.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a greater focus on the arts.
Cool. Now, going around, how did you all pick up each instrument? When did you start playing, and why did you start playing? Was there an influence?
I was raised in the middle of fucking nowhere when I was, like 9, 10 years old. I just needed something to do, so I just fucking sat around, fucking learned how to play. It was as simple as that. I'm from, I guess you could say the fucking Nirvana generation, so like, just playing along to that kind of shit, like early on when I was like 9 years old. It just, I don't know, that's how it all began.
Were you self-taught?
Yeah, I learned everything by ear.
Wow. And what about both of you?
Pretty much a guitar player that didn't want to try so hard. So I picked up bass.
But that's the bottom end, man. That's the whole part of it.
Yeah, but like honestly, man, it's kind of embarrassing, but I didn't like start learning about chords until like 5 years ago. Like, I started playing guitar at home.
Right.
So like shit that nobody will ever hear.
Sure.
I finally learned a couple chords.
And do you feel that it's
the internet, you know?
YouTube videos? Tabs?
Nah, dude, I can't do tabs.
Learn the tabs.
Nah. So I'd rather do the chords. I'm a rhythm guy.
Power chord. You want to learn how to play guitar? Learn the fucking power chord.
Yeah, that's easy enough.
So do you think that changed, from doing, actually learning to play? Do you feel that was a progression for the last release, as opposed to the other releases?
I'm not sure that had much to do, like, as far as like the writing process for Cough.
Sure.
Like, I think the easiest thing for me to do when I want to write something for Cough is to just like sort of single note it.
Right.
But it has like affected like what I do with Windhand
Sure.
and stuff. But
And when did you pick up drums, and how?
I wanted to play guitar, and my brother had a drum kit. And, I just started gravitating towards it, playing that, and a band of guitar, and just started playing drums.
And do you ever think that you might want to go play guitar and have one of these guys switch over to drums for a little bit?
I think I should get good at drums first, instead of switching instruments.
Maybe that's the other question. Do you practice? Do you do your paradiddles or anything like that?
Not enough.
Not enough. We're starting to step up the game. Now, gentlemen, if you don't mind, I'd like to go through a couple of your tracks. Just go over and talk about some of the inspirations for your music and how it happened. And I'd like to start out with the split that you did with Windhand. Now, how do you pronounce the name of that? Is it Athame? Atame? Of course, I screwed that up. And that comes out as, like, to me, this like massive opus. And it was such I love talking about music that is a roller coaster. And I feel that with that track. And everything, and I notice it in other songs that you do as well, where you have this great change in vocal. You'll have a clean vocal, then you have a harsher vocal. And is that intentional to take the listener on a ride? Or is this just the way you want to play?
it's kind of stupid, honestly, but like it, what it comes down to is who wrote the part.
Right.
Because most of the time, I write a part to scream over, and David writes a part to sing over. So if he writes the part, it's most likely catered to his vocals. And if I wrote it,
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Depending on how the music is, you know, that we're writing, and like, we'll kind of tag certain parts as like, yeah, that'd be good with like the harder vocals. That'd be good with like something more melodic. So yeah. it's mapped out to, you know.
It
to a
really is
degree.
rare though that I'll write a part and I say like, you take this one.
Yeah, I don't know, probably, yeah.
And did you both write the lyrics for that?
We share the ideas and we sort of like come up with the concept together.
Right? And the time has come for sacrifice. What are we referring to here?
David wrote that one.
And I'm not gonna explain all my lyrics.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not gonna do that.
That's fine. No problem. Ritual abuse. Mind collapse. What can you tell me about that?
I'm pretty sure you named that one.
This whole section is just like, what do these lyrics fucking stand for? Man, I don't know. I mean, that I can say that song specifically speaks to a time in when was it? 2010.
2007.
Earlier than that?
Yeah.
Oh, well. Yeah. So I mean, we were like really trying to go for it. We had like bought. Sort of. I mean, we were paying like cheap dirt, like dirt cheap rented, like this warehouse, like totally unfinished. We were just like, hey, this is a great idea. We're going to live up here. We're going to write our next record. This is actually when we were beginning to write Ritual Abuse. But it was just like the worst conditions. And then like summer turned to winter and then it just got like, it got really harsh. I wrote Mind Collapse like in those conditions. I was just trying to write it out through the winter and yeah, that's kind of like where my headspace was. So,
Me and Joey had girlfriends at the time with Central Air.
We kind of left David alone
bailed
in
out.
this warehouse.
way more
Fucking
fortunate
lose
at
his
that
shit.
time. Yeah.
Cool. What can you tell me about A Year in Suffering? And again, it doesn't have to be about the vocal. It could be about the actual music itself.
That's the exact same time period, the same story, I think.
Yeah, a lot of those lyrics are sort of written around that entire
It's
experience.
actually like A Year in Suffering. Is that the second song on the record? Or is it the first one?
That's not the first one.
It's not. So Mind Collapse is first. And then, okay.
Yeah.
Well, reverse the order. And then, A Year in Suffering, and then Mind Collapse. So it's
Okay. Now, just to go back to what I saw tonight. I love the set, and it's my first time seeing y'all. Didn't expect to see what I saw. I felt like I was watching a lot of emotion up on stage. And when you're playing your leads or what have you, do you go back to that time at all, or is that past?
I mean, I don't know. Like when I'm playing, I don't know. Sometimes I go back to like the original sort of like feeling of the song, and like sort of the origin of it. A lot of our songs are sort of like they're written to be like part of what shit that we've gone through.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, yeah, I mean, to a degree, like kind of go back to like the original feeling of like what that song meant, I guess.
Okay. And what can you know what? I'm gonna skip these here. Because I want to go. Actually, I want to go to "Still They Pray" because that's what I've listened to the most. It's what? That's a lot cooler.
That's a good idea.
To me, as I'm hearing it, I felt like there was like you added a little more psychedelic bent to this release. Would you agree with that, or is that intentional?
I think it's intentional. I think it has more to do with with what Brandon is contributing to the record. I think a lot of like his like sort of like what he's developed sonically recently is like with his guitar is added more to that, and that as well as our live show we've added a guy on keys too. So we've been experimenting more with that sound.
And for upcoming releases, do you think you're going to even bring that to another level? Maybe add a little more of the keyboard, or because I've talked to some stoner doom bands over the past year, and they keep going back to that one thing where they say we're looking for a good keyboardist. We want to start adding that in a little bit for a more sonic, atmospheric element. Do you think you're going to do that, or do you have any new tracks that you're working on right now?
We've got some stuff. JK, I mean, he's a member of the band at this point. It's
Right.
He's not just here for the tour, and he's brought some riffs into the new writing process, and yeah, we were kind of like looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think we're all really excited to write an album with like the keyboards as an element. In the past, like they were added later.
Sure.
Now we're like writing with keyboards.
Right.
So
Now, do you, when you're out touring, do you do any writing, or do you have to do that when you're off the road?
We don't touch our instruments pretty much until it's showtime.
Right.
Well, at least today, you know, we've been 3 hours late for sound check every day so far.
All right.
It's only day 2.
And it's day 2.
Yeah, but we're gonna leave 3 hours early tomorrow.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, it's a plan. What can you tell me about Haunter of the Dark?
That's all you, man.
I mean, the songs. I mean, it comes from a lot of different places actually. So I'm not so sure. I can tell you like generally that Still They Pray. There's a lot of lyrics in that album that have something to do with my father passing away. He passed away like just before we started recording that record, and I wrote most of the lyrics like, you know, it was late. I'm fucking lazy, and I wrote them like, you know, as we were recording the record, and like, you know, a lot of that sort of those concepts came out in the lyrics on that record, having a lot to do with loss, death, you know, dealing with that sort of emotion.
Absolutely. And what was it like to work with? Do you pronounce it Juice?
Yes.
Osborne and Garrett Morris. What was it like to work with them as producers?
They're a good team. I mean, they actually just had Garrett come over to set up the studio to record Wizard Bloody Wizard.
Right.
After they met on our project. So obviously there's something there, you know.
Sure.
Some sort of connection worked out between those two.
yeah. We worked with Garrett in the past, and all liked him. It was cool to get them together in the same room.
Right.
And everything is live. It's straight to tape. It's all analog. So that's how we did like all the basic tracking for the record. So all of the drums and bass were done live together.
Right.
And then anytime the rhythm track was good enough to keep, we kept it. There was very little done in the way of like overdubs, anything like that. Obviously, we had to do vocals that way.
Right. But live, it seems like almost a rarity. You know, you're going back, and that's a good thing.
I think a lot of country bands still do it that way. You know?
But doesn't that
trained
give?
musicians?
I mean, seriously, doesn't that give you the energy? Don't you like when you hear a track that's been like kind of mashed together? There's something different from maybe like a deep level or emotional level of even a sonic level. But like when you're all in the same space together, feeding off of one another, I think there's more magic there.
Yeah, and we didn't double up any guitar tracks, so everything you hear is like actually the record starts with your guitar fucking up, like your jack
to
is
be
fucking
totally honest. I mean, we've never recorded anything that wasn't totally live. We always, you know, track everything live at first, and you know, so. I mean, we've done everything pretty organically, I guess.
Do you ever think you're going to release any live anything on?
I really have no interest in it.
No.
Maybe. Who knows? Who knows what will happen?
It really depends, like, on who has control of the recordings.
Right.
we don't know what to do.
Okay. All right.
Like if somebody comes out with like a good quality bootleg, you know, we'll talk about it. But
Sure.
it's not. I feel like live records these days aren't even really live records. Like you can still go in, you can overdub some stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, you could patch it up a little bit.
Decades.
Bring out the sound of the crowd a little bit more in certain spaces. Drop it
Yeah,
down.
you know, if you isolate all the tracks, you can go in, you can lay over a vocal track, and you can put some reverb on it. It's, you know, it's live.
Kiss Alive album, not live at all.
I've heard that. I don't know if it's.
Marketing ploy.
Yeah, I forget I forget what tracks are completely overdubbed, but like I think maybe I'm probably mistaken, but I think like maybe only the drums were live. Everything's just like overdubbed.
Now, while you're playing live, are there songs that you always play in the set, or songs that you haven't played for a while that would like to maybe put in the set?
There are, but like when your songs are all like 10 minutes long, it's
Right.
kind of hard to, like, you really have to decide like what you're gonna do, and you know we want to like do our best to support the new record,
Sure.
which is almost 2 years old now. So
Yeah.
we've been focusing on that, and then obviously like people like Ritual Abuse, or you know a handful of people do.
Sure. So you have to play something from there.
Yeah. So there's like Crippled Wizard. We've played pretty much every show for the last like handful of
That's
years.
pretty much, that's been like a mainstay. We brought back the song Mind Collapse. Started playing that again on this tour. So
And what do you think is the most difficult song to play live, and which is the easiest?
what's fucked up is like I have an immediate answer to that.
Do you?
Right now there's an answer.
It's just, yeah.
For the most difficult?
I don't like
You
showing my hand.
mean ever?
Okay, what do you
It's not a technical problem.
what song do you enjoy playing live the most?
I feel like it's also a bad question.
Yeah, like no.
The answer is none.
Okay. And if you're going out on tour and you got your tour bus or tour van, as they say, what are some essentials that you need to put into the van for the ride?
Fucking baby wipes.
You're the second band that said that.
That's a secret, man.
Can't believe
You
we're
wanna
only
get
the
out there and
second.
survive. man. Maybe what-
Are we the second
Powder
band you've
too.
interviewed?
No. Oh no.
So what are you looking forward to on the rest of this tour?
I'm looking towards the drives, man. I think it's gonna be. I'm pretty stoked to drive up the coast. I don't know. I'm just stoked to kind of see the change in atmosphere.
Yeah, so mostly you're gonna be on the West Coast.
Pretty stoked.
Totally different landscape from what we're used to.
Yeah, exactly.
We go from Las Vegas to San Diego after the show tomorrow.
Right?
And I'm pretty sure that's going to take 10 hours.
Yeah, we're gonna have a very long scenic drive up to Portland from Oakland. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's about 10.
Yeah, there's no days off, so it's everything is just 7 shows in a row.
Yeah. The sites those are the sites to see.
Vegas to San Diego and Oakland to Portland.
Whatever the
are
fuck you can see out of the van window. So.
The big.
So what do you do to pass the time through the drive?
We haven't done shit. Like, we ate marijuana today. I think that was like the only
I
activity.
think that's what you do here. It was like, fuck, what else do we do? Like, eat weed? Okay.
And how did you all that's okay. How did you gravitate towards this style of music?
Oh, you went to the question.
I did ask that question, yeah. Why not?
No, man. Like, you know, obviously, like, I think we got together at a time like when all the music downloading, like the illegal music downloading shit was really taking off.
Right?
You know, if you want to call it that. And
everything was available for nothing.
yeah, you can find so much more music than you could in the past, I guess, is what led us here.
You can send money to addresses and get like stuff in the mail, and then like all of a sudden you can like have access to everything, just hear more stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just at the click of a button now. Without question. So, is there anybody that you would want to do a collaboration with? Anybody extra that you would want to add into the band for a track?
Was that hot little number from LA, Henry Zabrowski?
Yeah, Henry Zabrowski. Maybe some performance.
A little spoken word.
Performance art, whatever, I trust him.
Want him to strip down and yell, maybe on a record someday.
Yeah. And do you ever do any covers?
We have.
Not anymore.
No.
It's been a while.
You do it more for fun, but don't put it in a set or anything?
We
Or?
don't do them at all.
I don't do anything.
There's nothing fun about this anymore.
We have done covers, though. For fun.
I think we
We used to
did-
have fun, man.
Has it changed?
We recorded Night Goat,
changed, man. Shit's
Melvin's
changed.
Night Goat
We
on our
used to have
demo. And then we did Negative Creep.
Yeah, negative.
We talked about Nothing Left Inside,
We
the
did.
Black Flag song, for a long
I don't
time.
think we ever quite got there, yeah. A couple
Yeah.
of us down does that.
I think that was about it.
Sounded good.
Or the St. Vitus
We used to do that.
Oh,
Patra
yeah.
or whatever.
I forgot about
Yeah.
Well, that's good, gentlemen. Listen, I appreciate you hanging out. I appreciate your time. I just had one last question. If you could go around, if you have anything that you would like to add about your gear, I'd be interested. Like, what are you using? Why are you using it? And is there anything that you would like to get in the future?
Go.
I don't know, man. Like Rickenbackers is just really comfortable to me right now.
Right.
You know, everything else I own is broken. It's everything we use. Like, we try to buy vintage shit as much as possible.
Sure.
So I'm dealing with the fallout of that decision.
Mm-hmm.
Every cabinet I own is busted.
Mm.
This is all rental gear
Okay. All right.
or borrowed gear.
I played the same guitar probably for the last fucking 20 years. So like, yeah, I think it's beating the shit. So I mean, if we're talking about gear, I guess I don't know. I try to get a new guitar this year. I don't know. It's just like I've had the same shit forever.
It's a
Played on the
Gibson.
same shit. You know, it's
They don't make this.
well, they don't make. That's true. They don't. Nothing's legit.
You need those robot tuners.
And do you use anything specific for your cabs or for your cabinet or?
No, I'm pretty much a minimalist, man. I just run a couple of fuzz boxes, and that's like in a wall, and it's like all I need. So.
And how about yourself? What do you like to use in the kit? And is there anything you want to add?
I'm pretty happy with my kit now, and I'm always trying to figure out cymbals. Right, I like what I have. I just, until something better comes along.
Right.
I guess eventually I'd like a Vista Light, but I don't think I'd want to tour with it.
Really, just keep it for studio work, or?
Yeah, I guess so.
Right on.
Spread the S-hoop gospel.
Oh yeah, I do have S hoops with the triple. They're these rims that have a triple flange on them, and I fucking love them. But I think they're kind of difficult to get. They used to make them, and it was some company. I don't know if it's like Prototype or what, but now you can only seem to find them for like snare sizes.
Right.
But I have like all my toms outfitted with them. They're great.
Cool. And guys, lastly, sponsorships are always welcome. Is there any question that you would like for me to ask the next band?
Yeah, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why?
That is a common question.
Only if they're younger than us.
Only if they're younger. All right. Well, gentlemen, listen, I know it's late. I appreciate your time. I know you got a lot of driving to do. So, again, I thank you so much. I wish you the best in 2018. Have a happy and healthy. Thanks. After this interview, I know that Cough were out on tour with Grime. Check out Grime if you haven't. Italian-based doom. They put on a great show, and Cough as well. Their performance was so dynamic on stage. You could really see that raw emotion, and it was just a dynamite show. Catch either of those bands anytime they come near you. Let's hear a track off of Still They Pray. This is Haunter of the Dark. Just a few days ago, I was at the Yucca Tap Room in Tempe, Arizona, to catch this next band. The band was called Castle, and they put on a fantastic show, and it was a top-to-bottom great bill. You've had, of course, Castle as the headliner, Psychedelic Medusa, which I know they have material coming out soon. They're based out of Arizona. Old Fashioned Assassin, which just had their EP put out recently. Go check them out on social media. They put on a fantastic show. And Stone Witch, which I know they have new material coming out. I'm looking forward to getting an interview with them sometime soon. And the lead guitarist for Old Fashioned Assassin, OFA, came on stage with Stone Witch and did a cover of Electric Funeral. That was amazing. Go check it out. Find it on social media if you can. Follow it in the hashtags. For right now, though, let's get into a song off of Under Siege by Castle. This is Evil Ways.
Superstition's got
Thanks as always for hanging out towards the end. It's doomtombpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on social media at doomtombpodcast, Instagram, Facebook. You'll see some videos, some news, maybe a few reviews here and there, just telling you what shows we're going to, what interviews will be coming up next. What else we got going on? We got a bunch of them coming up, man. I got to get a few. I got to step up my game. I got to get a few out a little quicker because I'm kind of getting backlogged with interviews here. So I'm going to try and get a few more out. So until next time, hey, keep going to the shows. Buy some fucking band merch every once in a while. You know the bands love it. They know they need to get to the next place. They need some gas money. Support them. Support your local bands and support those touring acts. And never forget to stay heavy.
Six quote that Dio told to Dave Mustaine one time, and it was, well, you know, we can jerk each other off all day, or we can smoke this joint.
They're still going after weed.
Crank's tearing this fucking country apart. But there's no fucking Crank commercials, is there? There's not. Mainly because all the people on Crank have turned their TV into a crank-making machine. Have y'all seen the latest drug commercials? Marijuana. Harmless? They've just gotten rid of all the logic. It used to be a couple of eggs in a pan, you know. Oh, we get it. Yeah, brain fried, right. But now they got handguns, date rape. They're throwing all kinds of bullshit in. The best one out there now, there's one with handguns in it. There's two kids hanging out in their parents' study. One of them's got the handgun. The other kid's got the bong. And, well, no, that is the best way to hit the bong. It really is. Twirling a loaded six-shooter. It just adds an element of danger and it really elevates the high. Have you seen that one? It's hilarious. One dude sitting by the bong, he's all fucked up, he's all high, you know? He's like leaned over, you can't see his face, but you can tell he's a kid because the bong's full of smoke. And he's just sitting there talking. And you're going, okay, Junior, you want to clear that, maybe? Or you can pay for it, or you can pass it. But it's not wine, good fellow, so let's fucking do something. And you know they had to put the smoke in the bong for all the people who don't get it. Because if they just saw a couple of kids sitting around with a handgun and a huge plastic tube, they're going to think, oh my God, look at these two homosexuals sitting around with a handgun and this enormous dildo. I told you the homosexuals were violent. We got to get them in cages quick. Yeah, good idea. They won't do any fucking in there. And then the one dude with the bong, he looks over at his buddy. Hey, man, your sister's hot, dude. And then he grabs the gun. Don't talk about my sister like that, all right? And you're thinking, wow, he took that pretty hard. Said she's cute. Is that thing loaded? Nah, man, it's not loaded. Marijuana. Harmless? Yeah, pretty harmless. That 38 snub nose is deadly, though. That's gonna need a trigger lock. Or you can load it with big green buds and then pull the trigger. I'm guessing it's gonna dry fire. It's just ridiculous. They just gotten rid of all the logic. And it's a good commercial, just not for drugs. They could use it for gun control. They'd have to change the voiceover. Be sure to put those guns up, locked away and unloaded when you're not at home and the kids are sitting around getting high. To make sure everyone's safe. Or NRA. They could use it too, different angle. Be sure to leave those guns out, locked and loaded when you're not at home and the kids are sitting around getting high. It'll help to weed out the weak. Keep this country strong. You know, they just got rid of all the logic. Eventually, they're going to have just a kid in the camera screaming, ah! It'll pull back. There'll be a big guy behind him in a prison cell cleaning his dick off. Happens every day, guys. Marijuana. Harmless? Yeah, still pretty harmless, but an above average dick in your ass will draw blood. Yeah. The high's gonna wear off. Now, marijuana can affect the memory. Probably not enough to forget that little episode, though. That's gonna stick with you. That's gonna stick with you.